It started with the creaks. At first, I thought it was just the old house settling. I had inherited it from my grandmother after she passed away, and it had been empty for almost 2 years. The place was big, too big for me, honestly, but I couldn't bring myself to sell it. There was something comforting about living in a house filled with childhood memories. The first night, I barely noticed the sounds. The second night, I told myself it was the wind. But by the third night, I knew something was wrong. The creaks weren't random. They were deliberate. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Coming from the attic. I tried to ignore it, telling myself that I was just being paranoid. But the more I listened, the more I realized that whoever, or whatever, was up there, they were moving, pacing, watching. One evening, I gathered enough courage to go up there with a flashlight. I had to prove to myself that it was nothing, that my mind was playing tricks on me. The attic door was stiff, but I forced it open. The wooden steps groaned beneath my weight as I climbed. The air was thick with dust, the scent of old wood and mothballs clinging to the air. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing piles of old boxes, furniture covered in white sheets, and cobwebs hanging like ghostly curtains. Nothing. I let out a shaky breath and laughed at myself. Maybe I was losing my mind. But then I saw them. Footprints. In the dust. Fresh. I froze, my heart hammering. They weren't mine. They were smaller, almost childlike, and they led directly to the farthest corner of the attic, where an old trunk sat. I had never seen that trunk before. Something in me screamed to leave, to run, but I couldn't. My body wouldn't move. I swallowed hard and took a step forward, then another. The closer I got, the colder the air became. My breath fogged in front of me. I reached out with a trembling hand and lifted the lid. Empty. And yet, the footprints ended right at the trunk. No signs of anyone leaving. No retreating steps. Just nothing. I slammed the lid shut and bolted downstairs, locking the attic door behind me. I tried to sleep that night, but I couldn't. The silence felt heavier, more oppressive. And then, at exactly 3:12 a.m., I heard it. The lid of the trunk creaking open. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just lay there, paralyzed, as the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from the attic. The floorboards groaned. Then silence. I don't know how long I stayed awake, but eventually exhaustion won, and I drifted off. When I woke up, the attic door was open. Just a crack. I didn't go to work that day. I spent hours researching the house's history, trying to find something, anything, that could explain what was happening. My grandmother had lived here for over 50 years, but before that, the house had belonged to another family. A family with a missing child. Her name was Eleanor. She had vanished when she was 7 years old. No body. No clues. Just gone. I stared at the old newspaper article, my skin crawling. The picture showed a little girl with long, dark hair and hollow eyes. The kind of eyes that seemed to follow you. That night, I locked my bedroom door. It didn't help. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my closet door creaking open. My breath hitched. I reached for my phone, using the screen's dim glow to illuminate the room. The closet door was open just a sliver, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. And then I heard the whisper. A child's voice. Soft. Sing-song. Come play with me. I've never moved so fast in my life. I grabbed my car keys and ran out of the house, not stopping until I reached a motel on the other side of town. I didn't sleep. I didn't even close my eyes. The next morning, I called a realtor. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted out. Within a week, I had moved into a small apartment, leaving the house behind. But some nights, at exactly 3:12 a.m., I wake up to the sound of my closet door creaking open, and a whisper in the dark. Come play with me. I should have never gone into the woods. It started as a simple hiking trip. Just me, my friend Daniel, and his younger sister, Emily. We had planned to spend the weekend camping in the forest near my family's old cabin. It was supposed to be an easy getaway, a chance to disconnect from the world. But we never should have gone. The first night, everything felt normal. We set up our tents, made a fire, and told dumb stories. The sky was clear, and the stars stretched endlessly above us. It was perfect, peaceful, until the whispers started. At first, I thought it was the wind, a soft, distant murmur weaving through the trees. But as the night went on, the whispers became clearer. Voices, too many to count, speaking words I couldn't understand. Daniel heard it too. Probably just the wind, he muttered, but he refused to look me in the eye. Emily was the first to notice something was wrong. The forest feels different, she whispered. Like it's watching us. I laughed it off, but I felt it too. An unseen weight pressing against my skin, making the air feel too thick, too still. Then, at around 2 a.m., we heard footsteps. Soft, careful, circling our camp. I grabbed a flashlight and shone it toward the trees. Nothing, just shadows shifting between the branches. But the feeling didn't go away. None of us slept that night. The next morning, we decided to cut the trip short. Whatever was out there, we didn't want to find out. We packed up and started heading back. That's when we saw the first symbol, carved into a tree. A spiral, surrounded by strange markings. Deep scratches in the bark, as if made by something with claws. Emily stopped walking. I saw that last night. What do you mean? I asked. She swallowed hard. I woke up, and I saw something moving between the trees. I thought I was dreaming, but it stopped right here, right at this tree. None of us spoke. Then we saw the second symbol, and the third. More spirals, more claw marks. The forest felt wrong. The birds had stopped singing. The air was deathly silent. And then Emily screamed. We turned and saw her staring at the ground, her face pale. Footprints. But they weren't ours. They were smaller, barefoot, leading deeper into the woods. And they weren't alone. Beside them were claw marks, as if something had been crawling alongside whoever made them. We need to go. Now. Daniel grabbed Emily's arm and pulled her forward. We started running. Branches whipped against my face, the forest blurring around us. But no matter how far we went, the symbols kept appearing. The spirals, the claw marks, and then the whispers returned. Louder this time, closer. They were all around us, pressing against our ears, seeping into our minds. Words we couldn't understand, but somehow we knew exactly what they meant. They were calling to us. I don't remember how we made it out. 1 second we were running, and the next we were stumbling onto the old dirt road near my family's cabin. The whispers stopped. The forest was silent. We never spoke about what happened. We just got in the car and drove, leaving the woods behind. But sometimes late at night, I hear them again. The whispers, calling me back. We didn't stop driving until we were miles away. No one said a word. Daniel gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white, and Emily sat in the back, trembling, staring blankly out the window. I wanted to tell myself it was over, that we had escaped. But deep down I knew better. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the whispers. Faint at first, like a breeze slipping through cracks in the walls. Then louder, more insistent. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up with a start. My room was dark, but something felt wrong. The air was thick, heavy. The silence was unnatural. Then I heard it, a soft tapping at my window. My stomach twisted. I lived on the second floor. Slowly, my eyes adjusted to the dark. I turned my head toward the window. At first, I saw nothing but shadows. But then something moved. A hand, small, pale, pressed against the glass. I stopped breathing. The hand slowly slid downward, leaving behind streaks of something dark. I couldn't move. My body was frozen in pure terror. Then the whispers came, from inside my room. A voice right next to my ear. Come back. I bolted out of bed, turned on every light, and sat in the corner of my room, shaking until the sun came up. The next day Daniel called. He sounded different, distant. Emily's gone, he said. His voice was barely a whisper. I woke up, and she wasn't there. My blood ran cold. I rushed to his house, but the police were already there. They had no leads, no signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing, except for one thing. Carved into the wall above her bed was a symbol. Daniel and I knew what it meant. She had gone back. I don't know why we went after her. Maybe we were desperate. Maybe we were guilty. Maybe we had no choice. 2 days later, we drove back to the forest. The deeper we went, the more wrong everything felt. The trees were taller than I remembered. The shadows stretched in unnatural ways. The air felt thicker, like we were walking into something alive. Then we found it, a clearing we had never seen before. In the center, there was a tree, massive, ancient, its bark covered in spirals. At its base stood Emily. Her back was to us, her head tilted slightly to one side. Her hair hung limp, matted with dirt. I called her name. She didn't move. I stepped closer. Emily? She turned. Her face was eerily calm. Too calm. And when she smiled, my stomach twisted. Then she whispered, not in her voice, not in any human voice. You shouldn't have come back. The whispers erupted all around us, louder than ever. A chorus of voices, rising and falling, laughing, sobbing. The forest began to shift. The trees twisted, their branches curling like fingers reaching for us. Emily took a step forward, then another, and I saw them, figures standing among the trees, pale, hollow-eyed, their mouths moving in perfect unison, whispering in voices that didn't belong to them. Their arms were too long. Their fingers clawed into the bark, scraping, carving spirals into the wood. We ran. I don't remember how we escaped. All I know is that we never found Emily again. It's been 3 years. Daniel won't talk about it. He moved to another state, changed his number. I don't blame him, but I still hear the whispers. And last night, I found something carved into my bedroom wall. And outside my window, in the darkness, something was watching, smiling.